Hello, everybody. My name's James. Welcome to Planet FPL, the world where everything revolves around fantasy Premier League. Suj, he's still on holiday. He may come back one day. No, he'll be back next week. But I've got a very interesting guest with me this week. Let me introduce you to a very good friend of the show, Benny Blanco. How are you, mate?
How are you, James? Nice to be here. A big honour after all the many years that I've watched this and listened to this show. I'm on it. How surreal.
Thank you, mate. When people hate the fact that we've got Patreon, it's largely Benny's faults for things that he said to me in Manchester when we were drunk one night. Benny, I've got to say, are you a comedian? Are you a full-time FPL manager? Who's the real Benny Blanco?
I'm a mix of everything, James. I'm certainly not a full-time FPL manager, and I'm far from being a comedian. The standard is low on Twitter, isn't it? So if people think, do you know what I mean? People like Randy Shafter, for fuck's sake, Joe.
And
So,
you're not Randy Shafter, just to confirm.
no, weirdly, he's literally just messaged me now to say, what time am I doing this? And that he's going to study every word and every facial expression. So he's probably doing memes on me as we speak, which is a scary thought.
That's great. I've got memes of me coming of me as well. Who's the beautiful lady on your wall?
That's me mum back in the
Is
day.
it?
Yeah, I'm at my mum and dad's house, by the way. I haven't got pictures of my mum scantily clad in my own house. That would be bizarre. So yeah, this is my dad's office. So that's why there's semi nude pictures of my mother around.
Yeah, you're definitely a comedian,
Yeah.
mate. The audio listeners have just gone straight to YouTube. Oh, I'll have a look at Benny's mum.
She's nearly 70 now, so doesn't quite look the same.
Oh, bless. Right, before we get into the FPL stuff, I want to talk about game week 39 rather than game week 29. You are co-founder of the FPL charity batch. What is it?
Yeah, it's most people have seen it getting spammed all over Twitter at the moment. It's a concept that Ash FPL Hints and I came up with last year. It's a little bit like Soccer Aid, but for the FPL Twitter community, and it's all in aid of Street Child United, which is a charity that looks at street connected children and trying to give them a better platform going forward in life and supporting them. So I think Gianni Batici is an ambassador for that charity, so he's involved in the game as well. And it's basically a North team, which is managed by myself, and a South team, which is managed by Ash and David Mundy, I think's co-manager of that. And we had a game last season in Birmingham, in the middle of the country. That's where the North-South divide is. And sadly, the South beat us 2-1, so we're out for revenge this year. But like I say, it was a great day. Played the match, went had an after party afterwards, plenty of drinks, and we raised, I think it was 6,600 for charity. A huge event, massive success. And when we first, set out to do it, we never envisaged it would take off like it has. So we're just hoping that we can eclipse that this year and make it even bigger and better.
I'm sure we can. Did you envisage it being more than a one-off when you come up with the idea?
Well, to be honest, we were just let's try and do it once and see if we can. Ash and I never, we're not event planners or anything, so we were just trying to see if we could blag our way through it and pull it off. And so the success was just getting it done once. To get it sort of embedded as an annual fixture in the calendar. Yeah, we never really expected that would happen. So to do it a second time is amazing. And if we can, if it can be something that lives on, even better. So yeah,
I see no reason why not. By the way, I mean, it's a charity match. It's the most competitive charity match I've ever known anywhere. The desperation on both sides to win, it's mad.
I think it's going to be even bigger this year because obviously after what happened last year and the North were awful in the build up. I was part of that. Obviously, we were ripping into the South quite heavily with memes and stuff, and the shit posting was bad. And the South obviously came out and won the game, much deserved, and they've been giving it to us all year. So we're chomping at the bit now to get back out there and try and reclaim a bit of pride and dignity. But the South will be confident and they'll want to defend their trophy. So yeah, I think the tension will build up more and more, and I think we've got a good game in store.
Yes, Yeah, very much so. I think it's fair to say probably both sides have probably strengthened. I went and watched the South play a very competitive friendly yesterday against a team that plays regularly. And it was a tough match. But yeah, we're probably in better shape than we were last year, but I don't doubt that you will be as well.
Yeah, well, we've actually had some games this year. Last year, we had a training session for about 9 of us. So first time I saw half of our team play was actually on the day, and it was too late to do anything about it then. So yeah, this year we've had a couple of games. We brought in 4 or 5 really good players, and yeah, we'll be better. But I'm sure, no doubt, you'll be better as well. So yeah, should be good. Should be
When's the
good.
game, mate?
June the 3rd, so it's the Saturday. It's obviously Gameweek 39. It's the weekend that follows Gameweek 38. It's the FA Cup final day. So keep my fingers crossed. Man United, Man City somehow get knocked out, because that might affect some people coming. Well, Brighton as well, obviously. So Sheffield United to beat City would be ideal. We've got a couple of City players.
Oh, of course.
Not
I've
players.
just clocked. You signed up Johnny Pringle this year, haven't you?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've been,
well, he ain't playing for you, mate.
well, he said to me that he'll try and play and then go straight to the game afterwards. So we might even play the first half. So fingers crossed he can
Stop
make it.
doing that, mate.
Well,
What time's kickoff, Ben?
Our game.
Yeah.
Well, we don't know yet, because it'll be dependent on the FA Cup final kickoff. So
I see.
Yeah, because we want to play our game, and then we want to go back to the pub so we can watch the FA Cup final. So we've got to dependent on when that is. So
we kicked off at 2 o'clock last year. Johnny Pringle is not getting from Birmingham to Wembley, mate.
Hopefully it'll be a little bit earlier and we can get him there. But yeah, it's nice that I think last year the Champions League final was on, wasn't it? So we all went back to the pub and we all watched that together, North and South, and loads of the people who watched the game as well. And it was a great evening. All rivalry was aside, and we all had a good laugh together, didn't we? So yeah, it was good.
Yeah, I'm hoping Brighton beat Man United. I'm going to do a live tactical structure of Brighton if they reach the cup final in the pub. I think, mate, be in my element. I'd love watching them, as I've said many times. They were also involved in probably the most entertaining game at the weekend, which highly annoyed me because I wanted to watch it back on Saturday night, and Sky decided to show a rerun of Arsenal's game instead. So I absolutely sacked that off. How can people buy tickets for Gameweek 39 or come and watch or contribute, mate?
I'm trying to get for my the Gameweek 39 site. It's at GW39. Bear with us one sec, James.
I'll stick it in the bio anyway.
Yeah, GW39 FPL, and there's a link to the website, and you can buy tickets there, which are £5. Money goes direct to Street Charge United, and there's an option if you can't make the game and you just want to donate. There's a non-ticket donation option as well. So yeah, if you just go along to that and give whatever you can. Like I say, we aim to try and beat last year's total of 6,600. So if we can get close to that or beyond, that would be amazing. I know times are tough for people, so don't expect massive amount of money being donated individually, but a couple of pound here and there would be huge. So if you wouldn't mind, it'd be brilliant.
Am I right in saying we've got a ladies event as well this year?
Yeah, that's the difference, and something that we really wanted to do. We were hoping that we could get something involving the women's. There's lots, obviously, female accounts on FPL Twitter, and we thought it'd be great to get them included in the event as well. So we've got the women's game prior to the men's, and it's going to be North and South as well. So yeah, we're still taking on new recruits for that. I think there's a good 15, 16 that have confirmed that they'll play, but if we can get a few more and get either a 7-a-side, 6-a-side game, depending on numbers, and that'll be obviously before the men's game. So that'll be a lovely little addition, I think.
Nice, brilliant. It is in a proper stadium as well, so
yeah.
Come and watch. How much does it hold, Castle Vale? We can get 1,000 in there comfortably, can't we?
Easily. I think the capacity is nearly 3,000. I mean, yeah, it's very professional looking. It's the only thing that is professional looking on the day. It won't be but yeah, the stadium itself is great. And actually, the game, to be fair, the game last year, I did expect it to be a lower standard than what it was, and it was actually pretty competitive game. Like I said, you've recruited better players this year. We certainly have. So it might actually be a fairly decent game of football as well.
Yeah, I think what caught everyone by surprise last year, everyone thought it was going to be like 7-5 or something.
Yeah.
Then it wasn't. It obviously ended up being 2-1. I think now everyone thinks, oh, it will be tight. It might go the other way and be a bit crazy this year, quite possibly. Brilliant, Benny. Obviously, if you want to support, guys, we'll have the links in the bio and we'll have more Game Week 39 chat on the podcast between now and that June the 3rd game as well. Mr. Blanco, you was on bench boost this week, as it seems like nearly everybody was. 70 points. Happy so far?
Yeah, it's pretty decent. I mean, it's pretty boring, isn't it? At the moment, everyone's got virtually the same team. So, yeah, but happy enough. That's at this stage with what is another 7 fixtures to go. We're pretty much halfway through the game week. 70's good, yeah, strong. Especially when I was going to get rid of Odegaard instead of Saka. So keeping him and him getting an assist, and I think he got some bonus as well, didn't he? So that was a nice little boost.
Was that because of the very last minute leak on Saka?
No, nothing to do with that. I think I was already going to take out. So I think I'd decided I was going to take Saka out a couple of days earlier, just because I wanted to make sure I had the funds to bring Haaland in if I needed to. I didn't want to take another hit next week, so I thought just keep Odegaard. He could easily match Saka, and obviously he did better. So that was a bit of a touch that he was on the bench.
So I take it in principle, you'd be thinking what, Tony to Haaland this week if Haaland's past fit?
Same as everyone else.
Yeah, it is a little bit. It's almost, yeah. I think all of us, well, not all of us, a lot of us have had this penciled in as a buy. I think obviously if Tony were to get booked at Old Trafford on Wednesday, he probably books it in, or at least books in obviously a Tony sale. In a weird way, I hope he doesn't get booked, and I hope Haaland is ruled out, and we all have to come up with different suggestions and ideas. But yeah, difficult to look beyond getting him back for Southampton away at the weekend if Haaland is fit. Your rank, Benny, is pretty good. Just outside top 15k currently.
Not bad, yeah. It's all right, that now for an absolute banter account shit poster.
Yeah, you say that banter account last 4 seasons 49,000, 132,000, 34,000, 10,000. That's not a banter account, mate.
I just keep it on the download, don't I? I'm there for the jokes. The reality is
it's not on the download now. Everybody knows, mate.
Yeah, but if you go for the years past that, James, when I wasn't really playing, those some of those finishes are pretty bad, aren't they?
Yeah. So I'm doing you the favour of talking about the ones where you were committed, mate. So come on, quietly. There's a good FPL manager there. What works for you?
Being boring, probably. Just steady. I don't take massive hits. Not that I'm scared to do it. I really don't care about the game too much. I enjoy it. I enjoy FPL to a point, but I think like FPL and FPL Twitter is a big part of my life, and I enjoy it. But being successful at FPL's not a big deal to me. It's a nice little bonus. If I have a bad game week or a bad season, I don't care. So I think that helps because it's just a bit of fun. And to be honest with you, the type of tweets that I post, it probably sort of suits me better playing badly in a way where you can't have a little moan or a joke when you're doing quite well. So I think, yeah, I need another bad season, really.
So the jokes are off the table now, are they?
Jokes are off the table. I'm doing too good, aren't I?
Do you have a book that you go through for your Twitter jokes, or?
No, I used to. There's a lot of the jokes are just.
I used to have a book. Did you?
No, I didn't. I used to have a book. I just got them in my head, all these jokes, because I used to work in a pub in Liverpool, and I used to just be like a sponge. And there's a lot of funny people around here. And whenever anyone told me a joke, I was like, "Oh, that's good," and it would just be stored in a locker, and then I just tweet them out. They weren't mine, and then, but obviously, as your account grows, you get accused of plagiarism and stuff. So I have to come up with my own now. That's why the standards dropped massively.
Nice. You've managed to beat me again this week. I'm on 67 -4. I removed Gabriel and Saka. No, I did not know that Saka was not going to be in the Arsenal team. That news got leaked on Andy Let's Talk FPL's YouTube channel. I'll be asking Andy about that because he's coming on the podcast with me on Thursday actually to review these midweek games. I wasn't aware. I made the transfers late on Friday nights. It certainly didn't influence what I was doing. Captain Rashford, I'm on 67 -4. Sean Fernandez come in, did nothing, but I've had some okay returns so far. McAllister, Mitoma, Tony, Watkins, Trippier and Botman. And David Raya's 6 points, which if he'd saved the penalty late on would have been absolutely monstrous. And you've got him as well, haven't you, Benny?
What was it? 11 saves he made. It was
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Well, if he'd saved the penalty, it would have taken him up to 12, probably put him the top bonus. And I would obviously have 5 for the penalty save as well. So it would have been worth sort of another 7 for him if he'd saved that. I had that unusual. I obviously was aware that the penalty was being taken. I had McAllister and Raya and was trying to work out what was better for me, and decided to give up because I didn't really know the answer actually. So I'll take McAllister's little returns because obviously he'd have been on 0, so he's now on 6. Although he also got booked during the celebration, I think. So it would have been 7. Yeah, I couldn't even work it out, to be honest, mate. A little bit like you, I'm planning probably Tony to Haaland, but going to leave my decision very, very late in the week. I suspect he was obviously close for Saturday. Is every chance he'll be in contention for that game at Southampton. But worth saying, obviously, they play Bayern Munich 3 days afterwards as well.
It seems like he's probably going to be available, whether he'll get the full 90 or it'll just be managed minutes. But I think if you get wind that he's going to be in, you just make the move, don't you? It's not worth taking the risk because of what he can do and the damage he can cause. So, yeah, especially, and that's how I've played it really all season. It's just mitigation of like risk. If there's something which is going to massively hurt you, then you just cover it, don't you? So I'd bring Haaland in and just take the chance.
I'd take it you'd captain him under that circumstance as well, would you?
Probably, yeah. I think if I know, it's a bit like Paul McAnulty with Sky. That's how I play FPL as well. It's you shouldn't look at EO, should you? You shouldn't look at those things in a way. It does spoil the game in some degree. But I think if you want to have a good season, sometimes you've got to do those type of things. A bit boring, but yeah.
So on that basis, then, if Haaland's unavailable, I guess you'll be captain Rashford this week, will you?
Yeah, that's what I've got him at the moment. He's the bus team captain as we speak.
Suj, for what it's worth, matched my score. He's also on bench boost. He's also on exactly the same. 67 -4. He brought in Still and Botman this week, so he's done a right out of that. He kept White and Saka from Arsenal. So he's on 67 -4. He's got 13 to go. He's got Harry Kane tonight as well. I'm on 67 -4 with 15 to go. Although that includes Kelechi and Nacho, although maybe he'll start now. Brendan Rodgers has gone, and we'll talk about those managerial dismissals in a bit. But yeah, in terms of transfers this week, feels very much about waiting for Erling Haaland. Should we have a chat about these games and we'll talk about those managerial changes while we do it, Benny?
Yeah, let's do it.
City 4, Liverpool 1 on Saturday lunchtime. Obviously, City like to make life difficult for themselves and caught out, not for the first time historically, by a high ball over the top from Liverpool. But I must say, this was the best I'd seen of City probably all season in the league, actually. Do you buy into this narrative, Benny, that no, Haaland is better for them?
I mean, I was about to say that myself. It does bring that debate back to the table, doesn't it? After a performance like that, because they were as free flowing as I've seen them all season, and they just look a better unit when he's not there, which is just crazy to think about when you consider the amount of goals and the threat that he's got. But they were just tearing through Liverpool. They were just swarming all over them and cutting through them, and some of the goals were just glorious, weren't they? Particularly De Bruyne's and Grealish's. I love both of them goals, just the way they passed and moved, and it was just Liverpool couldn't live with them, and it was the gulf was massive.
Yeah, it was. I actually thought even when City were losing, I thought they were playing really well, actually. They were just susceptible when they went and pressed Liverpool. If Liverpool could beat that first line of it, then the ball was in over the top. At 1-0, there was a great chance where Salah broke down the left as well, and Grealish obviously tracked back. If they end up scoring from there, potentially talking about a very different game. But yeah, it was probably really alarming for Liverpool how easy it became by the end. City had 75% of the ball, despite being ahead for nearly all of the second half. And the game actually went from really high intensity to the first half to very, very easy. How concerned are you for Liverpool? And we'll keep saying, is it a blip? It's a blip. It's April now. And they're still under 1 point per game away from home. And they've ended up getting absolutely well beat here.
It's crazy how quickly things can change, isn't it? Last season, Champions League final, and you think they're going to put up a good defence or sorry, go up against City again for the league and put up a good challenge, and they've just fallen away. Just that lack of investment in midfield is really noticeable, and basically no one there, is there? And Fabinho's regressed so badly. Henderson's aging. Harvey Elliott, is he up to it really at that level? He's a decent enough squad player, but they're relying on players like that now. And yeah, they just the huge, that defence that hasn't been put under pressure because they've been so well protected in the past by that midfield. They just look terrible now. They just look weak. Trent, you just fear for him every time he gets attacked. He just looks lost. So yeah, I mean, it's absolutely great to watch for me, with all my Liverpool friends around here who have been giving it beans for the last few years. They're all very quiet now, so I'm enjoying it.
You should probably clarify at this point who you support.
Yeah, I know, it's bizarre actually.
With that accent.
I sort of keep it on the as well. I'm a Man United fan because my dad's from Manchester originally, and I didn't realise that this would be a problem until it's started going to school, and then I realised, oh right, this is not going to be fun for the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years of my life. But yeah, Man United were not a great side when I started supporting them. It was pre-Alex Ferguson days, because I'm quite old. I'm nearly 44. So I've seen Man United when they were shit the first time round. And but when I was at school, Man United started playing a little bit better. So I don't know whether that made it worse or better for me, to be honest with you, because I was under more attack because Man United kept beating Liverpool. But yeah, it's been a tough few years with Liverpool doing so well around here. So yeah, I'm quietly enjoying it at the moment.
I think the big thing to reflect tactically on the game is Liverpool, obviously on the press, are just not what they were. I'm concerned for them that they're obviously getting linked with Bellingham a lot. It sounds like if they get him, which is still possible, he's going to blow their budget. And I think they need more than one player. I really think they'd be better off looking at a progression of 3 or 4 different players to improve that attacking area. Give some cover in the fullback areas as well. Like, is Shimikas really good enough to stand in for Robertson? I know they obviously got Calvin Ramsey from Aberdeen, who's had injury problems we've hardly seen this year. But I mean, you'd obviously mentioned Trent, which is well documented. I don't think Robertson's been much better this season. Van Dijk's not the player he was 3-4 years ago either. So there's problems throughout. They played a very similar setup to what they did against Manchester United. It was a little bit different off the ball, where they were trying to tuck Salah in off of the right to play up front with Gakpo. And the design of that was to try and stop the ball going into Rodri and Diaz, but they just bounced it off of third man runs and played through them quite easily. John Stones played this inverted role again. And I think he's the one people are looking at now further ahead with City doubles to come, thinking, I probably am going to want a City defensive one, asking if he's the most locked. So have you got thoughts to move towards a City defender at any point? I mean, it's worth saying they conceded again, Benny.
Yeah, I mean, they do like to let the odd goal in, don't they? Because they just abandon defending altogether, don't they? Yeah. I mean, that first goal, I think they were, I think it was 3 or 4 breaking on them. And once, like you said, you get past that first press, teams can get at them because they just play 2 at the back pretty much now, don't they? And like you say, Grealish got back and nicked that one off Salah, because that could have been a second goal. So yeah, I'm not desperate to move to a City defender, and I think with the rotation and the risks there, it won't be top of the list. But it seems bizarre to me that you got a team like Man City, who as good as they are, and they've got great fixtures from, I think, is it 35 or 34? The fixtures get really good, and you think, well, we're going to invest in this team, and it's really hard to pick outside of Haaland. Do you consider Grealish now? He seems like he's starting to really cement a place, and he's looking a lot better. Stones is the other one, but beyond that, you're looking at Ederson again with with pretty much a ceiling of 6 points at best. So yeah, I don't know. Jordy's still out. I probably will move there, because I imagine the Twitter circle will head in that direction, and I'll just follow suit like the boring manager that I am.
Well, here's the thing. So with Ederson, he's got 100 FPL points this season. The highest defender for City is Nathan Ake on 66. And the beauty with Ederson for the double is he will play twice. And if I said to you now, right, he'll get you 8 points in a double game week, you probably take it. But I mean, he's well behind, say, David Raya this season for FPL returns. I think Aki, Stones, or Diaz would probably be the three. I mean, it's just off the table to be considering anything offensively. Obviously, Cancelo's gone from the defenders. I mean, Kyle Walker's been overrated as an offensive asset. He isn't particularly. Laporte seems to be the one that's a little out of favour, but they've got these Champions League games as well. I think you're right to say there's probably a little bit of time to decide on this because the main focus is going to go on Haaland. I can't ever remember watching City Liverpool over the last few years and having no FPL investment in the game. And I know there's quite a few will have had, obviously Liverpool particularly, but the majority of people would have had no City in that game at all. The one that probably really stood out for people beginning to consider for City is Jack Grealish, who's 6.8, and he was outstanding. And actually, he's been very good for City the last couple of months. Phil Foden would probably expect him back towards the end of the month. And of course, game week 34 starts at the end of the month. But Jack Grealish at 6.8 is beginning to look a little bit interesting. Thoughts, Benny?
Yeah, I mean, he's starting to get returns now, isn't he? And he looks, it was the best game he's played for Man City, I think, on the weekend. I thought he was excellent, just all around. He just looked confident and he was almost talismanic, wasn't he? You know, he looked like the Aston Villa version of Jack.
He looked like he belongs. Yeah, I agree.
You know, and it does feel like De Bruyne's on the wane a little bit now at that standard. I don't know, you know, he's still amazing and obviously he got a bit of a haul there, but I just feel like he's not quite at the same level mobility wise and stuff as he was. And you know, does Jack Grealish start to fill that void and take that sort of mantle on? He looked great and he's getting regular starts and you know, crucially, he's getting those returns now that come with it. So he is of interest, I think. And I think once we get to 34, 35, you know, we just have to assess what it looks like with Foden back in the picture, and can you know, will he keep his place, Grealish, and is he the one that we can punt on really? And yeah, he's definitely on the radar.
I'm probably more interested in another City bid not mentioned though, Ilkay Gundogan at a little bit more, 7.3. And it's interesting you mentioned KDB. We discussed this a couple of weeks ago that KDB would definitely play this game against Liverpool. Many of you might remember Luke Williams disabled came on the podcast with me and discussed City tactically a few weeks ago and said there's no danger of KDB not playing games like Liverpool or Arsenal in game week 33. And actually for the double, particularly West Ham as the second game in 34, I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't play with the way West Ham, if David Moyes is still there, would set up against Manchester City, although they'd probably set up very deep, whoever's in charge, I should imagine. So I wouldn't take 2 KDB starts as a guarantee in 34. Honestly, it's the more difficult games, the more open the game, basically, the more likely KDB is going to play. And basically, either way, Gundogan probably will play as it stands at the moment. You're looking at going back to the defeat at Manchester United in game week 20. There's only one game he's not started, which was the defeat at Tottenham. And Guardiola picked a fairly bizarre team that day, and I think has learned a few lessons from that. I think Gundogan's really worth watching because he's the one who just goes and attacks the space.
He's very advanced, isn't he? And he was popping up in the box every attack you looked, and he was there. And obviously he gets his goal as well. He's picking up the scraps. It's like that little run he had. Was it last season? It feels so long ago now.
It's 2 years ago now. Yeah, he suddenly became a captain option, didn't he?
He came from nowhere, really, didn't he? And if he's playing that role where he's the sort of most advanced, he's quite direct as well, and he's bursting straight through. He's not coming from any wide positions. He's right down the middle. So yeah, he's a great option as well. There's too many to pick from, and the problem that you've got with Pep, you get there and then your player doesn't play. But I think like you say, with De Bruyne, for the amount of money that you'd have to invest, you want the guarantee of starts, don't you? And if he's not going to do that, you're best just punting on one of the, you know, the mid-value ones. And if they get dropped or they just get a substitute appearance, it doesn't feel as painful.
You've got in the midfield at the moment McAllister, Matoma, Rashford, Fernandes. This is the point I think you're trying to make because it's similar for me. I've got the same 4. They're not going anywhere. Now I've committed to going to Bruno Fernandes. Everton at home next, Forest away. I'm Are you free hitting 32? Is that part of your plan, Benny? I know, yeah, you've used your ships exactly the same as me. I know who you listen to. And then obviously doubles 34 and 37 for United. This was my concern getting Fernandes. It's like, oh, I've really disliked this prick. But now he's in, he's staying in. The Brighton guys aren't going anywhere. So there's only one available midfield spot. And who am I going to commit to? Is it Gundogan, Grealish, or is it Mo Salah?
Well, that's going to be the midfielder choice, isn't it? That's clearly the direction that, particularly those of us that are going to free hit in 32, they're the five that you're going to want for the rest of the season, pretty much. So that's why, the City midfielders are of interest, but I think you're going to stick with them five probably, and you'll avoid, and that's why you're going to have to look at the defensive options, which pushes you back towards Ederson as a thought. So yeah, it's a tricky one. It's always been that way with City, but I think this season's been even tougher to call. And we used to have reliability with his defensive picks at the very least, and that's been the same sort of minefield as the midfield options, isn't it? So yeah, tricky to pick more than Haaland.
I'd say if they go out the Champions League to Bayern Munich and they're obviously, say they beat Arsenal in 33 and the title's still on, I think by the time you arrive at 34, you'd feel very confident at that stage to say, right, Diaz is going to play all these games, or John Stones is going to play the majority of these games. I think obviously Walker could play that inverted role rather than Stones. They can use other players to do it from the left-hand side. Feels like, for me at the moment, probably Diaz is the clearest, but he's also the most expensive. And once you start putting Salah and Haaland back in your teams, it becomes quite tight, actually. Have you got a plan in place, Ben, when you're looking to go back to Salah?
No, not yet. I think I want to hold on to Kane until that Bournemouth fixture, and then I'll probably look to use him as a make weight to get Salah in. So it'll be, what's that, 32, is it? 32?
So Kane's got Bournemouth at home game at 31. Obviously, then 32 would probably be your free hit. So you're coming back in 33 or on 34 itself. You think there was some hits flying around this week just gone, guys? I think for Liverpool, Man City players in 34, they'll be flying around again, I should imagine. So despite the different states of these two teams, are going to be very interesting for us going forward, no doubt. City are obviously trying to catch Arsenal. Another victory for them bastards at the weekend. Fully deserved, although Leeds give them some difficulties in the opening stages of the match. Did a few things differently, like playing Christensen in midfield, basically played a 4-3-3 Leeds without a recognised forward. Arsenal's recognised forward was back in the goals, Gabriel Jesus, who started because Saka was apparently ill on Friday, but was well enough to come off the bench and play. You've got Odegaard. Is that right? Is that all you've got now, Benny, from Arsenal?
Yeah, like everyone else, took out Gabriel and Saka as a -4. So the result was ideal, really. The Arsenal conceding at home again, like they do that. They always tend to. Weird, isn't it? They were in. Yeah. I mean, other than that, like you say, that opening period where Leeds looked dangerous, Somerville and Aronson, they caused them a few problems. They could have been 1 or 2-0 up. But after that, Arsenal were just on cruise control. They were totally dominant, and then they just tend to switch off, don't they? I mean, it was a bit of a free goal, was it? Deflection, wasn't it? Yeah. But yeah, FPL wise, it was good because they lost that clean sheet after you take out one of their defenders, and I was toying over Odegaard or Saka to take out. So I made up when Saka was on the bench, and then Odegaard pops up with an assist, and I think did he get 1 bonus point? He may have got a bonus. Just
despite just the assist with 5 goals, bonus point. Yeah, and he regularly will it. He regularly will be in and about that if he performs well. You can expect him, if he scores, to nearly always be in the bonus, actually, because it's such a creative hub for Arsenal.
It was a brilliant assist as well, wasn't it, from him? A fantastic ball. It always looks better from a left footer, but just that delivery into the box was fantastic for Xhaka.
All right, calm down. Interested to know if Tony wasn't to get booked this week and you decide not to get Haaland at the weekend, who do you think you'd be benching in 31? I presume it obviously wouldn't be the United guys at home to Everton. It certainly wouldn't be Watkins at home to Forest. So do you bench a Tony at home to Newcastle, an Odegaard at Arsenal, or Liverpool, sorry, or a Brighton player at Tottenham?
I haven't got that far yet. It's a tough one, isn't it? You
It
know,
would be.
the first thought was you think on paper Odegaard at Liverpool, but Liverpool, as we just said, I mean, they're conceding. I think they're bottom three, aren't they, in the league for most chances conceded against them, or big
And it's
chances.
all season. It's not recent. Yeah.
Not even at home, the leaky as well. You think he's such a creative player. It seems, you know, it seems wrong to be benching, the team top of the league, and he's the main sort of creative heartbeat of the team. So yeah, I don't know. That's going to be a bit of a benching dilemma that week.
What would be your instinct in terms of a result from that? Just forget the FPL stuff. Liverpool v Arsenal at the weekend. What would be your instinct as a result?
Arsenal win.
From everything I've watched this year, I mean, I kind to agree. It's just Anfield, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean,
Shit happens to teams there, as you well know, mate.
yeah, yeah. I don't know. Very recently, yeah, I mean the atmosphere is that they'll be up for it as well. But there is I speak to me. I've got a lot of friends, like I say, Liverpool fans who go to the game, and there is I don't know, just there's a real disappointing feel to how they're talking about their team at the moment. And I do think if Arsenal start bright and get a goal, they'll quieten that Anfield crowd right down. And I do think they're just better. They're just a better side. They're better in midfield all round, and I just can't see Liverpool winning that game.
I can because it's at Anfield. I wouldn't if it was at the Emirates, but the home record's still good, right? What, one defeat in front of a crowd in the last 5 years or so in the Premier League. And although it looks rough for them in terms of trying to finish top four at the moment, their running suggests to me we should not rule them out as yet. Arsenal at home is their most difficult game left by an absolute mile. They'll fancy they can win all of the rest. I really would not rule them out just yet. I think they're very capable of a run, and that's why they'll remain interesting.
Yeah, I think if they win that Arsenal game, that's a type of game that will galvanise them, and then
Yeah.
obviously they've got great fixtures after that, and you could see a bit of momentum gathering. So I do think it's a key game for them because it might really shape what happens after that. But yeah, I just think Arsenal are playing that well. I fancy them to win, but I wouldn't be like I say, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Liverpool did turn up on the day and do
You'd
it.
probably, if you still got Arsenal defensive though, considering what other fixtures other teams have got where we may have interest, they're probably benchable this week though. Going to Liverpool, I would think in the majority of the cases. Is your intention to? I guess you're just leaving Odegaard ready to Salah when the moment's right, is it?
Yeah, I think it'll be him that'll move for Salah, and like I say, Kane down to whoever at that point. Obviously, bench boost out the way. It might just be fodder if I need the money, but yeah, I think that's sort of earmarked moves. But I don't plan too far ahead. I've got a bit of an eye on it, and things change quite quickly, don't they? We've got another 7 games in this game week. We're all anticipating moves that we're going to make, and things can just change even over the next few days. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I wonder if Benny, if you come through the week unscathed, if you would consider making that move now, if Haaland's not back. And then obviously you could move Kane to Haaland whenever the time's right, rather than having to downgrade him. If you think about that logically, you're saving a transfer.
Yeah, and I've thought about that. If Haaland's out this one, you might be able to wait a little bit longer on that move, and obviously get the Kane v Bournemouth fixture out the way where he's likely to be heavily captained. And yeah, you can move direct Kane to Haaland. That's another option which I've been thinking a little bit about as well.
That becomes right awkward though if you think Haaland's going to play Leicester at home and you're intending to captain Kane against Bournemouth, right?
Yeah, tough, isn't it?
Certainly will be. I suspect after tonight you'll probably just want to move Harry Kane on straight away anyhow, mate. We'll talk about that later in the week. I take it in terms of your free hitting 32, that's it for Arsenal now, is it? To right at the end of the season, you're just going to accept your fate and go without the likes of Saka.
I say that, but they look so good, don't they? And with Jesus back as well, he just come back like he hadn't been away. He looked so sharp. I think you've got to never say never. On paper, you think they've got quite a tricky running, haven't they? So you do think that you can avoid, but when you see him playing as well as they did, I think you do have to keep the door open just in case.
Yeah, I think all of us who sold knew the risk we were taking on this week and didn't think, oh, I think they won't return. It was right, let's hedge our bets and go, and we know the risk and jumping on the extra fixture. To be honest, I think most of us have gone Arsenal to United this morning again. I've been lucky.
Yeah.
But United still have a game to go, right, during this game week. Leeds assets, I take it, probably not on radar for the majority. But interesting next 5 for them. Obviously, they've got Forest at home tomorrow night, but then Palace at home, Liverpool at home with their away record, Fulham away. We don't know yet if that will be with or without Mitrovic. Leicester at home, Bournemouth away. Really important period for them. If they don't do well with these next 5, they could go. They could. Yeah. But they did, as I said, they did give Arsenal some issues in that opening third of the game.
They're really good going forward, aren't they? They're great to watch still entertaining team, Leeds, but they just look a bit weak at the back, don't they? That's how it is for them. And if they can get goals, they'll be all right. And I do fancy them to stay in the league. I hope they do. I know as a Man United fan, that's a bit weird to say, but they are good for the league. They're a big club. I've got quite a few Leeds United fans as mates as well. So yeah, I do want them to do well. I think they'll have enough going forward as well to stay in.
Voba, who's out injured at centre back, is a big miss for them, and we think Tyler Adams is going to miss the rest of the season. The thing I noted that was really interesting for the weekend was that despite the fact there was no Adams, Weston McKennie didn't play. And that's something to watch. Looks like Rocker's got favouritism over him at the moment, and I'm concerned for them defensively without Voba. Obviously, any positive result for Everton tonight, Leeds will be in the bottom 3, and then they don't play Palace till Sunday. So by the time we get there, the pressure could really be on them. They wouldn't be bottom because of Southampton's goal difference, and Southampton play Man City. But it could well go into that game 19th. On Sunday. So Leicester got Bournemouth at home as well, right? So could be a really, really big game coming up for Leeds. If obviously tomorrow night against Forest doesn't go well, they've got to do well in that one. Right, next game. This is where people underestimate Sudge's importance to this podcast because I don't actually know what I'm talking about next. Bournemouth, talk of the Devils, beat Fulham 2-1 at the weekend. Capped off by an absolutely stunning equaliser by Marcus Tavernier, who's a player that we really, really like. Bournemouth's fixtures, next couple don't look great now. Leicester possible manager bounce away from home and that fixture at Tottenham. Then there's a few more fixtures where they're expected to do well. And I think people are underestimating them at the moment. They're quietly doing okay.
They're getting some results, aren't they?
Yeah.
I mean, watching a bit of that game, I mean, I didn't watch, I only just caught the highlights. Fulham started really brightly, I thought, and looked well in control. But Bournemouth, second half, just come out, different team, dominated, and they just steamrolled them in the end. And you know, they're looking strong. Fantastic goal with Tavernier, probably goal of the month, definitely a goal of this weekend. But yeah, they've got a threat, haven't they? Solanke is, you know, he does chip in with a goal. He does look dangerous, and they could have got a third, I think, as well. So yeah, I'd written them off really, but when you watch them and you see they've picked up some games through which some points through a tricky period, they could surprise you. I do fear for Everton a little bit, and I think tonight's a big game for them to see after the way some of the results have gone this weekend. But yeah, Bournemouth definitely got a chance.
Yeah, no, they certainly do. I think Solanke getting the goal, although did he touch it? It was a little bit debatable, but we'll give him the benefit of the doubt, like we gave Solly March the benefit. Oh no, we didn't a couple of weeks ago. But good to see him back in on the returns because he's obviously very important for them up front. I think Tavernier gives them a little bit more in terms of delivery, creativity. There's a lot of aspects to his game which would be beneficial to Bournemouth. And I think the one that we keep underestimating a lot is the importance of Neto back in goal. Because actually, again, if you compare the results with the period that he was out, the period that he was out of games, they only picked up 3 points, which was at home to Everton, ironically, over a span of sort of 6 or 7 games in the middle of the season. and it's slowly improved now that he's back in. It seems to have a bit of stability with the centre-backs now. And Zabani's back fit, so that gives them an extra option as well. Whenever you ask people, they say, oh, yeah, I think Bournemouth will go. I'm becoming less and less convinced about that, actually. I feel like they might be all right. Why can't they go to Leicester and win at the weekend, right? They're a mess defensively. And Bournemouth have shown against the likes of Liverpool and Arsenal recently that they themselves are capable. Fulham, Dara Cohen, our Fulham correspondents, coming on Clash of Correspondents on Friday. And they've got 3 really good fixtures coming up. West Ham at home, Everton away, Leeds at home. Andreas Pereira, inevitably, the budget midfielder we all had, obviously scored when everyone's bench boosting, inevitably, but nobody has anymore. They feel like, though, they might be the first to fall under this on the beach line a little bit. Would you agree with that?
They've had a great season, haven't they?
Yeah, they certainly have.
You know, they've well outpunched what we thought they would do. They're comfortable, aren't they, in the league? And yeah, it does seem like they're coming up against teams now who've got a lot more to play for, and it just psychologically it does just affect players. I mean, that first half they looked really good, looked comfortable, and then as soon as Bournemouth really stepped it up, I think Fulham couldn't match them, and I think that's going to happen from now to the end of the season because they've done enough, and you can't take anything away from them. But just the psychology of it all, you can see them just dropping off that 5-10%, and that's enough.
But then again, you look at the fixtures, and even from the FPL perspective, West Ham at home, Everton away, Leeds at home, trip to Villa, then double. Okay, it's rough. It's City, Liverpool, but double. Leicester at home, Southampton away, Palace at home. And then they finish with Manchester United away, which United might have Europa League final 3 days later. And it might be like a second string United team if United have wrapped up top 4 by that stage. So, the likes of Solomon and Pereira still really, I think Pereira's like 4.3 now. The problem is everybody looks like they're heading towards 5 in midfield.
Yeah.
Exactly what we said.
I think if there was a place for a budget midfielder now, you just go back to him, wouldn't you? He just pops up. He's great value. He's had a great season. And, completely contradicting what I've just said a couple of minutes ago, sometimes teams, when they've got nothing to play for, are just totally relaxed. They just churn it out and churn out results. Yep. So it could be that with that fixture running for them, they're playing completely relaxed, handbrake off, and they may be quite open games. So there's definitely some there's definitely an argument to have some of those attacking options for Fulham. I think defensively you might avoid now because I do think it'll be a bit open. But Pereira and Solomon, I think, there's definitely a place for them if you can fit them in. Like I say, though, we're all going to have those 5 in midfield, aren't we?
Yeah, the one Fulham now would throw up because of consideration, because a few people might be walking out of this week with problems and things like maybe we can't see at the moment. It's like, for example, could Mendy come back in goal for Chelsea? A lot of us have got Kepa, for example. And I think if that sort of eventuality did happen, I think Leno is perfectly considerable. Also, those who might have sort of a Ward, Everson problem, that situation also might change over the next couple of weeks. I'd keep Leno on radar because I think that's a very good one to pair up with a Raya or so for the rest of the season. If you don't want to go up to an Edison, City home, Liverpool away, you've got no expectations on a clean sheet from those two. But look at, here you go, I've got the segue this time, David Raya at the weekend at Brighton. I had no expectation for that. That 6 points was an absolute blinding bonus with those 11 saves, as we said. Brentford drew 3-3 at Brighton, and they've only lost once since the World Cup, and that was at Everton. So no gimme for United on Wednesday, Benny.
No, not at all. And Brentford are just an awkward team, are they? And I think that game will affect United a little bit. I mean, it looked like a tough game. They looked leggy. I know we'll obviously talk about that game later, but I think Brentford are the type of team that you don't really want to play after a match like that. A draining match against Newcastle away, and then you've got to come up against Brentford. They're strong and awkward. And I think it'll be a tough game, that I do. If they can scrape a win, they'll be made up with it. And Brentford did cause Brighton a few problems.
Yeah, there's a trend, by the way, on Brighton conceding goals from set pieces, which is something you need to very much keep an eye on. I think of if Ben Chilwell does play against Brighton 31, delivery from set pieces and stuff, You might think, oh, I'm going up against my Brighton offensive. Yeah, they might all get offensive returns for you in that fixture, for example. That's something that needs keeping an eye on. It's probably something that is a little bit concerning. I love Roberto De Zerbi, as I've mentioned, only 999 times in the last couple of weeks, but they are conceding goals from set pieces. He's worth saying Brentford are one of the best at utilising dead ball situations. Got Janssen hadn't played for 6 months, comes in and scores. We all should have bought him, shouldn't we? Rico Henry, I've got nothing. Ben Mee, people got nothing. Ethan Pinnock, as it was when they had double previously, feels like the one we all should have been on. Have you got anything Brentford defensively, Benny?
No, I did have Pinnock. I had Raya and I had Pinnock, and I got that goal that he got for the previous
against Fulham, yeah.
And then I moved him on, and I think he got a return in the next game, didn't he? I don't know whether it was just a clean sheet. I can't remember now, but he got return then, and he obviously scored on the weekend. So probably slightly regretful of that move now. But yeah, I mean, Brighton dominated the game, didn't they? You know, as we expected. But Brentford are just tricky, and they capitalised on the few lapses in that, defensively for Brighton. And Ray is great though. I mean, you could, to concede 3 goals and come away with 6 points is, you couldn't have asked for more, could you really? Maybe a penalty save. That would have been asking for more.
Tony is a difficult sell, yet we're all doing it. It's 154 FPL points now. It's very well owned. 7.9. It's very reasonable. We'd all assume in part because of the swing on Haaland fixtures and this 9th yellow card that he's got to get suspended soon, hasn't he? But we've been saying this for 5 months now. He's going to get suspended at any moment. And like in a game like this, he's liable to just pop up and get you something at any point. Returns top bonus from that as well in a 3-3 draw. If he gets a penalty, he's going to score. It'd be interesting because I think if Haaland's unavailable, most of us will be playing probably Tony against Trippier as probably a minimum at the weekend. And I'm not sure I'd want to pull either of them out for that fixture, to be honest.
No, I think he's a great option to leave in, isn't he? I think, we've gone from at one point having no forward options to, trying to squeeze 3 in now, haven't we? Watkins is still performing, banging goals in, and he's got good fixtures. Haaland, obviously, if he comes back. Kane, you want to keep Oldham for a few more games. And Tony, like you say, you just leave him there to the end of the season. I know we're earmarking a move there, but when he keeps scoring, keeps popping up, and he's on penalties, it's a tough sell.
They've got rough fixtures, but are they? Like Newcastle at home's not a great fixture. Newcastle obviously very good defensively. Wolves away 31, Villa at home 32, which I think, like, if you're not free hitting, is particularly interesting. Villa have obviously been very good, but you wouldn't complain about that. Chelsea away in 33. I mean, that might be off the back of whatever they've done in the Champions League and stuff. Brentford have done well against. They'd obviously won 4-1 at a similar time of the season at Stamford Bridge last year. And interesting, we keep talking about 34 and teams who've got good singles in that week when there's obviously a lot of doublers. So we've said like the likes of Maddison against Everton, Trippier and Isak against Southampton. And we keep saying, Raya and Henry or Pinnock on me against Nottingham Forest. But Tony against Nottingham Forest would be the best of the lot to cover off that week. I mean, talk about a player who could outscore a double game week player.
Yeah, you'd absolutely want to try and keep hold of him, but it's just, how would you do it? I think there are some big decisions to make in those forwards.
No, he's going to go. I'm going to sell him if Haaland's confirmed available. I'm going to sell him, but I think a lot of us might have some regret.
Yeah, I mean, he's been like that all season, hasn't he? When you've not owned him and you see Brentford goal pops up on your phone and you look and you just know it's going to be him. And it is, he's just chipped away at it all season. He's had a fantastic season. He's a real threat, isn't he? Aerial and on the floor, and obviously his penalty taken second to none. So, yeah, you'd want to keep him, but you're probably going to have to sell.
Talking of chipping away, Matthias Jensen, another 5-pointer, only 4.8 midfield. Those who've been on will be absolutely delighted with what he's been doing for them. And Mbumo is heading towards the 100-point mark as well, only 5.9, I believe, at the moment. Yes. But I think it's more about at this stage now with Brentford, do you hold? You're not buying now at this stage with the doubles out of the way. And it's worth saying across the whole of the rest of the season, tough set of fixtures. They've still got to go to Chelsea, Liverpool, Tottenham. They finished with Man City at home last day. But Tony is absolutely consistent. The Brighton players, Benny, you've got 2 at the moment or 3?
3.
You've got 3. So you got a defensive one, have you?
Estupiñán.
Yeah.
I don't know the correct pronunciation. I don't think I've had to say it out loud before. Yeah, him, Mitoma, and
McAllister.
I mean, Mitoma's fantastic.
Yeah, isn't he?
To watch that.
They all are.
That
All 3 of
acceleration
them.
that he's got is just scary. And yeah, but all of them, yeah. And I was made up that March didn't get anything because he could have hauled. He had so many chances towards the end, particularly. And yeah, it could have been whoever you've got, you just stick with. It's just one of them, isn't it?
Did you see that remarkable stat from the game that every outfield starter had at least 2 efforts on goal?
That's not happened since Opta began, I think.
Yeah, that is insane. Which tells you that this game could have been very different. Obviously, Raya's save total in itself, I think, tells you that. Would you have any thought, Benny, of moving at any point McAllister or Mitoma to a March, or do you just stick with that now? Make your peace of it, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. You knew that when we were making those decisions and you were going to bring in probably 2 Brighton mids. It's flip a coin, wasn't it, for 2 of those 3, and just stick with it now. I think we're at that stage of the season. There's not many game weeks left. Unless there's an injury, you're sticking with what you've got now. I wouldn't have the treble up. I think you just can't fit them in, can you, with the 5 midfielders that you're going to want?
No, I think the only case I could make to move one would be sort of McAllister to March if McAllister ends up playing a deeper position, but that seems unlikely unless Ferguson possibly comes in the team with Welbeck. Ferguson owners are the ones who've been most unlucky this week. I saw 1 or 2 Ferguson captainers going about as well. We're not sure if he's going to be available for the game at Bournemouth tomorrow night as yet. But yeah, I'd stick with what I've got. For me, I've got the luxury of being able to go back to the 3rd Brighton rather than be locked in with Estupiñán. It's worth saying, there aren't many clean sheets knocking about here. And I can't shake the feeling that great assists for Steele, great returns and stuff, but there's no domination of the penalty area defensively. And if teams do get chances against them, I think they're going to continue conceding goals. And that makes it really interesting for someone like you with Estupiñán going into Tottenham away, Chelsea away. What do you do? Because you know you've got the offensive side of him as well.
Yeah, they are leaky, which they
give you a chance. They give everyone a chance.
They used to look a lot stronger, didn't they, under Potter defensively? I think De Zerbi, the way he plays, it's amazing going forward. But I think they do leave a little bit at the back now. They're a little bit more open, and I mean that was telling with some of the goals that they conceded on the weekend, particularly Tony's. It was just he was in acres, wasn't he? So yeah, I think you're relying on attacking returns really with Estupiñán. But yeah, again, defensively, is that a move that you're in a rush to make? It probably isn't.
You keep him. Whatever you've got, you keep him.
You stay into the end of the season pretty much now, and you make your peace with the fact that you're probably not going to get many clean sheets out of him.
Agreed. Might see more Palace clean sheets coming up in forthcoming weeks with Roy back. We all owe him an apology because he's back and he's won. And actually, Palace, much like Brighton, had a huge number of efforts on goal at the weekend, which made Brendan Rodgers' comments after the game about feeling unlucky and it was undeserved, was probably the final straw. Like, are you deluded, mate? I know most Leicester fans are pleased that he's gone. That's not to say they don't respect his achievements of winning the FA Cup, etc. But I think most Leicester fans think this change should have happened probably back in August or September, to be totally honest. Thoughts on reflection on Leicester changing manager there, Benny?
Yeah, I think it's been coming that for a while, hasn't it? It's not felt right there.
But then felt unexpected when the news broke yesterday.
Yeah, the timing of it's a bit strange. Yeah, I felt like it was long overdue, but I thought at this stage of the season they'd see it through. So clearly, it's just got to that stage where could have even been that press conference that they've just gone, that's enough now. But yeah, they were dominated, weren't they, by Palace? It was just a great goal by Pereira when he come on, but other than that, there's very little to speak of. And they've got good players there. Leicester, they should be doing much better. And I think it's just run its course with Rodgers. He's done a great job, but it was time for him to go. But Palace looked great. I thought they were, they played sort of quicker and a bit more direct, weren't they? And Eze looked outstanding. And they got
he did. He looks revitalised there by Eze. He's a player we really like.
Yeah, proper live wire, wasn't he? I thought he was really good in the game. And, so the Zaha injury was unusual. Right? It looked like he'd been shot by a sniper. But,
Poor fella.
Yeah,
it saved me from buying him in Sky Fantasy this week, as the Sky listeners will know.
Done you a favour there, James.
Yeah, I'd say so, yeah.
But I thought Palace looked good, and the fixtures are good, aren't they, for them now? And they'll be
great.
I think they'll be comfortable. I think they would have been comfortable under Vieira, which makes
this is it. Although it should be said, I think a lot will go, Palace will be more pragmatic with Hodgson coming in. They had been under Vieira, but with these set of fixtures more pragmatic than we'd expected. That wasn't the case. I went gunning for Leicester, basically. I mean, Leicester didn't have a shot on target in the first half. Palace had racked up about 20 shots in the first half or so. So thoroughly deserved victory. But it's interesting, if Mateta doesn't score at the end there, maybe Rodgers is still in a job. If Ben Chilwell's header, which was disallowed, counts for Chelsea, maybe Potter's still in a job. If Antonio Conte hadn't lost the plot at St Mary's, and if Southampton hadn't got a late penalty, he'd probably still be in charge of Tottenham. Fine margins, right?
Very much so, yeah. And that's football these days, isn't it? And the mood of the fans can just Mateta doesn't score that goal, which, by the way, what a first touch that was. If he doesn't score that goal, the Palace fans go away, don't they, with a slightly different feeling, and the mood's completely different. Like one moment can just change the whole landscape for all of these teams, and people lose their jobs over it. But I think Palace looked good. I think they'll comfortably stay up now. I don't think there's anyone in particular that I'd necessarily be on my radar FPL wise, but I enjoyed watching their game. I thought the performance was excellent.
I think there's a couple of enablers that certainly you could consider for this run-in. Again, people with a goalkeeper problem, Gator potentially, because the fixtures are great to the end of the season. The only team they've got left that's above them is two: Tottenham away 35 and Fulham away 37. But it's a really good run of fixtures. And home games they've got left include Everton, West Ham, Bournemouth and Forest. They're great, which is part why it's a shame Zaha as a potential differential is not going to be available. I think Eze at 5.4, again, because of the midfield structure, is probably a no-go. But the two forwards might be worth keeping an eye on. Edouard's 5, Mateta's 5.1. I did note that Mateta's interview after the game, he said he knew that his first touch was so good, he knew he was going to score. And actually doesn't strike you as a confidence player. So it might be he has a little run, but then Edouard is still favoured at the moment. But it might be when you want to make that decision, Benny, to come down from a Kane to get to a Salah, for example, it might be that you've got enough. I think a lot are looking at going at Sam Greenwood of Leeds because it's 4.0 and just those who bench boost just leave it dead spot. That's my plan. But for those who still want the fixture somewhere, Palace, and their 34 fixtures, West Ham at home. West Ham have got, 6 away points this season. Consideration, potentially.
We're going to all have to come down, aren't we? And I was thinking the same. Greenwood just seemed like an easy move to make. But there may be some value in there, which I hadn't even considered myself. So, it's worth coming on the show for that.
You'd have listened anyway. I just keep an eye on those two Palace players. Obviously, on Leicester assets, I mean, who knows what happens next, right? I imagine they'll probably want to appoint someone quite quickly. I would have thought. Obviously, that's probably not going to happen before the Villa game tomorrow night. And they've got Bournemouth at home at the weekend as well. I mean, again, we talk about massive games. Then they go to the Etihad. Then there's more fixtures against teams around them: Wolves, Leeds, Everton. Maddison is certainly in fact, all Leicester assets, I guess, are a hold for game week 30 at home to Bournemouth, and then react after that. I mean, the keeper situation, God knows. If you've got, there'll definitely be people who've gone from Ward to Everson this week, and Ward might be back in goal tomorrow night. No idea. Not that I think Everson did badly. He's a little bit unlucky with the own goal and stuff. And obviously the FPL managers who bought him are unlucky with that. But situation could change. It could even be for me, Iheanacho comes back in. But I suspected he might have come back in tomorrow night anyway because of the close proximity of the games. It might be that I've had a lucky touch there because if he does well tomorrow night, he probably plays against Bournemouth as well, and in which case he's not going. Whereas if he doesn't play tomorrow night and Daka does well, it's probably him that's to make way for Haaland, despite the fixture, rather than Tony.
The fact that you've got Iheanacho, we know what he's capable of. It's the issue around him has always been minutes, hasn't it? And getting consistent starts. When he plays, he gets you goals. So with Rodgers not always, picking him, what happens next? Does a new manager come in and Iheanacho gets that run? And if you've already got him in place, you just leave him, don't you? And it could be a shrewd little addition that you've already got. And
it wasn't shrewd because it's done absolutely fuck all for me, Benny, since I got him in.
True. But it might be something that lands in your lap, mightn't it? Now, you might get that run, and we know what he's capable. Again, that was a couple of years ago, wasn't it, when he went on that fantastic run? He played.
We all had him. He became a captaincy option.
He was outstanding, and if he's certainly capable, it's whether he gets the minutes. And new manager comes in, they might like him, and they see what we all see.
Might not as well though. Whereas with a Maddison, he's going to continue playing. Same's probably true for those who've gone for Harvey Barnes as well.
True.
Okay, Forest Wolves was 1-1 at the weekend. VAR can't spot spitting incidents, but I think I saw one personally. You got any take on that, Benny?
Well, it was quite clear, wasn't it?
I thought so. I didn't understand Shearer and Mika Richards on Match of the Day going, well, it wasn't that clear. I was thinking,
it was pretty obvious.
It was actually, yeah.
Just whether you can totally pick it up on camera or not, you could just tell by the actions and the motions of their head movements, both players, that what had happened. So, yeah, how that was missed. Well, it was quite a scrappy, ill-tempered game, wasn't it? I quite enjoyed it, actually. It was.
They don't like each other, them two. It's a bit historical.
That's the cup. Was it the quarterfinal? Was it the Carabao?
They had a cup game, yeah, and also there was when they played each other at Molineux in the league. There was the. I can't remember what the tweet was, but it was something the Forest admin did wasn't advisable, and then Wolves tweeted it back slightly different. Yeah. So yeah, social media can cause wars for fans now as well. From what I've heard, and I'm not seeing a great deal of this game, is Wolves weren't great. That Podence effort, I want to say, was their only shot on target, despite having a huge number of the ball, which we shouldn't be surprised that teams have large volume of the ball against Nottingham Forest. Feels like a blow for Forest. I know Mark Southern said on COTC during the break they had to really get 4 probably from these two. After Leeds tomorrow night, Villa away, it's beginning to look tougher by the week. Then United, then Liverpool, then Brighton, then a trip to Brentford. They're in trouble. They're in real trouble.
You think the writing's on the wall now for him, and that result yesterday, the weekend, just doesn't bode well now. They needed to win. They deserved to win, really. I thought watching the game. They dominated the game, really. But when I say dominated, Wolves obviously had the possession, but Forest looked the most dangerous. And going 1-0 up, you think this is a key result. So for them to be pegged back and then it end like that, I think it's going to be really tough for them now.
Johnson, people will be on. It's probably quite a hard sell, actually, because he does continue to chip in. There's nothing to say, even in these fixtures, that he won't continue to chip in. He's on the pens. He's done quite decent. It's probably a value that's easier to keep than Tony, for example, if you're sitting there with both. I couldn't make the case to keep him ahead of Watkins with those two playing each other at the weekend. But yeah, there's a case to hold. People have gone on Navas. I suspect you're probably benching it for the majority of games coming up. Wolves is no interest in really at the moment. I feel like there's some easy fixes for them at the moment in terms of attacking players. Like Podence, he does always chip in. And I think goal scoring is a real problem for them. I don't know what Neto's match fitness levels are at yet, but if they can get him in the team, that'd help. I think playing Pablo Sarabia as well, even if they just played them 3 without Jimenez, for example, and had them interchangeable, you might find some joy with that. But then Bulls fans tend to tell me they need a focal point. So I imagine Jimenez will probably come back in the team. Anyway, we're not looking at them at the moment. We are probably interested in what's happening with Chelsea players. So that Graham Potter news last night was also very surprising in terms of, again, how quick it was. All they're considering, oh shit, he's gone. Much like what happened with Brendan Rodgers earlier in the day. Has he been harshly treated, Potter, or did he have to go?
I think he probably had to go at this stage, didn't he? He has been harshly treated in some ways. I mean, they've invested so heavily. You know, he's got a ridiculous number of players, a ridiculous number of egos to manage as well, probably there. And it was always going to be a really difficult, challenging period. But I think the results, they started to improve slightly, didn't they? And then that performance and the result over the weekend, I think they just thought time's up. But I do think they probably should have given him a bit longer. They've given him how many new players did they bring in the January window? It was just it's ridiculous, and he does need time. But yeah, it wasn't pretty viewing for him, was it?
I think it was inevitable that it was probably coming to a conclusion. I mean, whatever you say about the new players, etc., it's unacceptable when you look at Chelsea's goals scored column, particularly this year. It's unacceptable, and whatever the circumstance, it's not acceptable for them to be 11th. Clearly not. That's a huge regression. But I am surprised that they've not given the Real Madrid game unless they think they can tempt someone to do it. I mean, what a caveat for someone to say, yeah, come in, I'm going to put you straight in the Champions League quarter-final. Imagine you win it.
And with those players as well, it is an enticing job for managers. But you know, do you want
the only thing is, I don't know how much more money they'll be able to spend. It can't be a lot more.
I mean, you need to, though, with all those players. There's so much talent there, isn't there?
I guess part of the decision as well is really they need to be playing some form of European football next year from a financial perspective. And that, I wouldn't say it's beyond them, but it's looking very difficult to think that they'd even qualify for the Conference League at this stage.
I think as well, you can't see an obvious plan with them at the moment. It's very scattergun, isn't it? Even the signings, you think, what's the long term?
Well, they spent all this money and ain't bought a centre forward.
Yeah, it just it is just throw shit against the wall and see what sticks. And they're in a position where they've just got all these players, and the manager's got to come in and shape not just a team, but a strategy, a long-term strategy with it as well. And I think although it's an enticing job, obviously, because they've got the players there, they've got the resources. It's coming in. It's quite a big job, isn't it? There's going to be a lot of pressure, and Chelsea predominantly don't and traditionally don't give managers a lot of time, do they? They're not the most patient bunch. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that develops and how quickly they move for a new manager.
I think that what we've seen here is a massive chain reaction because Conte left Tottenham. Similarly, Bayern went for Tuchel. And I think Chelsea, there's people at Chelsea have worked with Julian Nagelsmann previously as well. For the Tottenham fans, if you're listening or watching and thinking you're getting Nagelsmann, I think I've got some bad news for you. Because I think Nagelsmann is highly likely to become the next Chelsea manager. How soon? Don't know. Be ironic if he took the Chelsea job quickly. They beat Real Madrid and then Bayern Munich beat Man City and they played each other in the Champions League semi-final with Tuchel in the Munich dugout and Nagelsmann in the Chelsea dugout would be quite something, actually.
The first thought when Potter was sacked is that Nagelsmann's going to go there. And I know Spurs and yourself probably were hopeful of landing.
Benny, I want this Herbie.
Yeah.
Have you heard?
I have. I've heard that once or twice. I mean, would you take Potter?
I think it's too negative. I think like he's still a very good coach. He's not going to struggle to get another job. I feel like actually he'd be ideal for Leicester at the moment. I think Tottenham need to be very, very cautious with the type of manager that they bring in. My big concern with Potter when he took the Chelsea job, I spoke about it, was it's his aura that he gives off that he's so calm. And I think like generally is, and he's even spoken in press conferences, he says, behind the scenes, I'm not and stuff. But I think it's difficult to feel an emotional connection with him. I think the Chelsea fans have struggled with that. And you look at second half performance, you can say, oh, they should have scored at the weekend. The second half performance was unacceptable. And I saw my team, credit to Villa, by the way, have a very similar second half against Aston Villa on New Year's Day, where we never looked like we were going to score, and neither did Chelsea at the weekend. But I feel that's unacceptable from a Chelsea perspective, not to be able to fight or get back into the game or even look like they were capable of causing Aston Villa problems in that second half. And so everything feels quite passive. I don't think Tottenham can have a passive manager at the moment. Tottenham need to be careful with the balance they find between attacking football and not having someone completely inept come through the door. You might have heard, Benny, there's this guy at Brighton that I quite like. I wouldn't slip my wrist if Tottenham appointed Potter, but I think it's probably not the right time. And I think he would be better off coming back down a step and could do very well with a Leicester, I think.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. I think with Potter, he lacks that sort of charisma, that charismatic leadership that comes with the big managers in those big jobs where there's an ego and there's a presence. And that's not to say that he's not, tactically he's great and
He's very good. He's very good.
I think it's how his personality, how he's portrayed, how he comes across to the fans, the press. It naturally puts pressure on himself because he's not reacting to stuff and outspoken. He's, like you say, it looks like he doesn't care when he clearly does. He's just a different type of personality. And I think that probably worked against him a little bit. And possibly is something that worked, Southgate's similar in some ways, works against him. Has he got that charisma to be seen as that big presence at a football club? And it might be harsh, but I think if you look at the top managers in world football, they've all got that. The Klopp, the Mourinho's, the Conte's, the Guardiola. They've got that.
Why did you put those two in? It's not 2015, Benny.
But they have got the charisma, though, haven't they? They've got that kind of that thing about them, that presence, and I think
you need a big personality. So I think Chelsea will realise that they need a big personality. And if they don't think Julian Nagelsmann is that big personality, then I don't think it should go down that route, but they almost definitely will. I've got no love loss for Chelsea, but I'm a little bit sad for Potter that it's not worked out because I do still like him. And I don't think Chelsea fans would massively dislike him. I just think they were too passive. He couldn't get them on the front foot. And I think you can't look back on his Brighton spell and say they were bad, right? It's not helped that probably De Zerbi's taken Brighton even onto an extra step. But Potter did an incredible job at Brighton. We all enjoyed watching them. But perhaps a part of that is less expectation on them. If you're Chelsea, your expectation is to win nearly all of your football matches. But I don't feel like he's a disaster or fucking it didn't well. I know Brighton fans will. Like with Rodgers, it's like, yeah, okay, you're out the door. It's been coming for a long time. Take your mirror with you because we know he loves himself. With Potter, I think he could walk into that Leicester job tomorrow and they'd be fine.
Yeah, and I think that what I find disappointing with it is he's a young English manager, and you want to see some, for the future of the English game, really, you want to see some English managers in those top jobs, and you were hopeful that Potter was going to be that one to sort of step into one of the big clubs and shine. So it's a bit disappointing that it never happened because I did fancy him to be the one to break into that. Not to say that he won't in the future, but that's probably where the sort of the disappointment comes with the decision to sack him. That he's not totally succeeded, but hopefully he learns from it, comes back, and like Leicester does seem the right profile of club to bring him back into that mix of they should be a top sort of 7, 8, top 10 club at least, Leicester. And with Potter, you think that would work. It just seems like a natural fit. So maybe he gets another shot at it there.
Yeah, I think that's a better move for him as well than walking straight into the Tottenham job. Let's talk assets briefly. Kepa, there's something we need to keep an eye on here, isn't it? A lot of us will have him, and if someone else comes in, it might just completely change their mind, right?
Yeah, and yeah, we definitely it's definitely concerning. I think though, you get the bench boost out of the way, don't you? And then you've got David Raya. You've got a keeper, and you can. It's not necessarily a pressing issue to get shut of him.
Not everyone's got that. If people got Kepa and Everson or a Ward, it's like, oh shit, I possibly got a big problem here. People will have that combination.
You don't want to be making goalkeeper transfers at this stage of the season, do you? But if you just got Raya, then you can just hold. But I think with all their assets, we're gonna have to wait and see now, because who comes in, what do they like out of those players? There's such a huge amount to pick from. What formation does he pick? Who's on the radar? Chilwell looked really advanced, I thought, though. He was unlucky not to.
Ridiculous.
he was their biggest threat in the game, from defence. But
Yeah.
the goal, it did look like a foul to me, but it could easily been given. But he was just popping up, wasn't he? And really attacking.
So advanced. I mean, if you watched the game from Nitest's perspective, he certainly passed up with flying colours. But then they might go back to a back four now. Maybe they deem him not good enough defensive. He's another one we'd have to keep an eye on. There's certainly no buy space now.
Yeah.
And I think those who've perhaps gone with Havertz, in a weird way, he's probably the less pressing one. But he, again, would be one I guess you'd consider binning if the big Norwegian's available and you don't own him. It's worth saying a lot of people obviously do still own Erling Haaland at the moment. But you wouldn't buy new. Wolves away, Brighton at home, Brentford at home, Arsenal away. I think Chelsea's a watch and wait, come back for 35 for the run in, possibly.
It's been quite strange this season. It's the first season I think I've not had a Chelsea attacking player at all. I've not owned him in FPL.
Do you like pain?
It's been telling though, isn't it? There's literally been really no one. They've not had a forward, really, have they? And there's been no natural, consistent player that you could go, that's the one to pick and to go for. I know Havertz a little bit has come onto the radar for a few people, but at no point have I been tempted. And like you say, I think with the uncertainty with what's happening at the club, I think it is just a wait and see now.
Obviously, they've played Liverpool tomorrow night as well. Just quick prediction on that. Chelsea, Liverpool tomorrow. How do you see that going? So I guess both clubs feel like they're on the floor at the moment.
Draw in it, probably.
I think Liverpool go down and win, to be honest.
I don't know. It's the no manager bounce.
I don't think Chelsea have got the capability offensively to hurt Liverpool in the way that others are obviously taking advantage of at the moment.
And Liverpool have got that, the offensive side. They still got, Salah on his own can hurt teams, obviously. But I just think Liverpool, the way they are at the moment, I think a draw just seems like the result that I can see.
Game's far more important for Liverpool than Chelsea as well.
Chelsea
maybe not psychologically for the fans, but Liverpool know they've got to start winning games to get back in contention for the top four. Whereas Chelsea, Chelsea fans, from a financial, we've spoken about it, are they bothered if they qualify for the Europa or not? They might even deem it. They've had that experience of finishing 10th and then winning the league the next year, right? So I don't suppose they're probably that bothered. They probably just want to enjoy their football a bit more. But we must give massive credit to Villa again. And those who've got the likes of Emi Martinez, Tyrone Mings defensively. If you bench boosted with that, you're absolutely in. Well done. Ollie Watkins continues to perform very well and score important goals for Villa, who is probably well documented. You probably all heard the stat by now. Third best record in the league since Unai Emery took the job, and they haven't had easy fixtures over that period. They're doing really well, aren't they?
Really good, yeah. John McGinn in particular was outstanding, wasn't he? I thought,
yeah.
Absolutely lost the midfield, and that a great strike. I know Kepa was getting a bit of criticism for that, but I thought he caught it really well, and it was just a sweeping strike, wasn't it? It was fantastic. But yeah, Villa look really good. You look at the stats, and Chelsea absolutely dominated. I think Villa had 2 shots on target and 2 goals. But watching the game for obviously the brief highlights that I saw of it, Villa looked comfortable. They looked dangerous. They looked they were winning first and second balls. Watkins is a threat. They look, since Ings have gone, it just seems to have settled down, and they've got a shape to them which works. And
interestingly, when Ings played a couple of games when Emery took over, I think he scored 4 in 4 as well. So he's not even just Watkins' stats under Emery. So who's playing that position has performed really well.
But Watkins, we know what he can do. He is quite inconsistent, but you give him chances, he does put them away. And I thought he took his goal great, and he's playing with confidence and good fixtures now coming through. He's a hold, isn't he? You just keep hold of him till probably right the way through.
I think probably at the moment, yeah, it's a hold largely. If I look at the next 3, if I'm free hitting in 32, they're 3 home games. Yeah, Forest is a definite. Newcastle is tricky. And then Fulham 33. So that's fine. Once you come into 34 and you see they've still got to play United away, Liverpool away, Brighton at home, Tottenham at home, they go to Wolves as well. That's a tough last five when you know there's other teams who've got players with doubles. So, it might be difficult when you get to 34 and all sideways Watkins to a Darwin Núñez, for example, maybe with a double. But I think for the next couple, he's of the three forwards, he's the one who's not going quite clearly going into this week. Any thoughts if Haaland's not available for 30? I know what you're going to say, but any thoughts of Watkins captain?
No, probably not.
You haven't got any. Have you got Watkins?
Yeah.
You have, yeah. Of course you have. You copy everything I do. Just your rank's about 300,000 places better, mate.
How does that work, though?
I don't know.
No, I'm in a group chat with FPL Seller as well, aren't I? So that does help.
Okay.
But yeah, who have I got as captain for 30 at the moment?
Well, probably Rashford at home to Everton.
Yeah, I think Rashford is where I'm at the moment. But I mean, Watkins he's in great form. He looks reinvigorated under Emery. Villa as a team just look more of a unit. And I'm not even too fearful about those latter fixtures with the way they're playing. I think they've got momentum now, and I do think they're going to see out the season well. The classic case of a team that's totally boosted by the new manager, and he's come in and just given a breath of fresh air to that whole setup. So yeah, I mean, he won't be out of question, but I think the reliability of someone like Rashford, I think, would pip him.
Since Emery's first game, which was game week 15, there are 2 games he hasn't started. In the rest, he's only blanked twice. You'd expect him to return against Forest, wouldn't you?
Yeah, you would. And what state will Forest be in by then as well?
There were another one. If they have a bad result Tuesday night, they might change as well with the manager.
Yeah, definitely worth thinking about. I haven't considered it, but you make a good case there, James.
Well, I didn't say I was going to do it. I was just making the case for debate. But yeah, Villa assets for this week. For those looking for 1 week punts, you'd be probably right on top of agenda. And I'd say for Tyrone Mings owners as well, he's playing extremely well. We've been concerned about this return of Diego Carlos. I think if or when it happens, and there's no rush for Villa to do it, I don't think it's going to be for Mings. I really think he's playing well at the moment as well, actually. Right, let's move on to the Sunday games, cover these off. West Ham against Southampton. Southampton are doomed, aren't they, Benny?
Gone, yeah. I mean, that was a massive result, wasn't it, for West Ham? Claws them out of a little bit of trouble, but it's obviously so tight down there. But yeah, Southampton just look dead and buried, unfortunately. Sad to see, really, but I can't see any way back for them really now. They just don't look like they're gonna. They just don't look like they've got a performance in them, really, and they're just not going to get enough between now and the end of the season. I don't think. It's just curtains.
No, I don't see him getting returns going forward, and I don't see him getting clean sheets defensively. And that's the recipe for disaster in this league. If you're not scoring and you're not keeping clean sheets, you can expect what follows. You've got City, Arsenal, and Newcastle in 3 of the next 5. You think of the 2 home games, Palace, Bournemouth, they've got to win them both. Have to. And anything they get in the other 3 is a bonus. And then swing away for the last 4, give yourself a chance. But yeah, I think Southampton have got 3 or 4 games left. You think, they could win them. They'll have to win them all. It's beginning at that stage.
Like Southampton and Forest, you just feel like they're your ones that you can almost see going now. And then it's a real dogfight for the
with Forest, with the likes of Brennan Johnson and Morgan Gibbs-White, you feel like there's something there offensively, whereas Southampton, you're always concerned who's going to get the goals. And actually,
it's a free kick.
Well, yeah.
And that's it, really.
The 2 in midfield, I mean, Ward-Prowse will chip in. Lavia is obviously a really good, talented player, and there's going to, if they do go down, there's plenty going to look to buy him in the summer. But across the rest of that squad, I think it's a little bit below what you'd expect for a Premier League team. There's other good players in that squad. Cole Walker-Peters will get picked up by someone, for example. But yeah, I think they're short, unfortunately, and I think they're going to go. West Ham, I think most of us have been of the opinion that they'll be all right. This wasn't vintage. I wasn't watching the game live, so I'm glad I didn't have to do the 4 or 5 minute VAR wait yesterday. But I think we all think they'll be all right. And interestingly, Aguerd obviously got the goal. And we were saying earlier in the week, he might be better choice than Zuma, but then Aguerd was a doubt. So anybody who did go in definitely went for Zuma, ironically. So he missed that there, but you'll be happy with the Zuma return. I guess the other ones he feels sorry for is Areola. Those who gambled on Areola, perhaps on the wild card. And then as the more the international break went on, the more it was like, oh yeah, Fabianski is going to be fit. We don't know who's going to play. Then you don't want to take a -4 for a goalkeeper late on. Yeah. I feel the pain. There's another one that he could be. People have a combination of him and Kepa.
Yeah,
very quickly becomes a problem.
Yeah, it's tough. That I think West Ham. You look at the squad that they've got. They've got too much quality really to go down. You know, I was always of the belief that they should be too strong. They've not had a great season, have they? But I think it's to get it out of the way now. I think that win was huge for them. It just lifts them into that sort of towards comfort, and I think they'll be all right now.
Yeah, I think they will. It's worth saying there's still some tough fixtures to come there, and their away record obviously causes alarm. It's Fulham next. As I said, Chris and Dara will be with me for COTC to preview that later in the week. I guess if you've got a Bowen or a Ben Rama, you probably hold this week and then bin, particularly if you're free hitting 32. Then their fixtures just automatically look less attractive. But I guess there's a temptation to hold because there's another double coming in 34. But that does feature Manchester City away as one of those two fixtures. They got Liverpool and Man United at home either side as well. I think it's probably a sell soon rather than a hold for the sake of holding. Finally, your boys, Benny, took one hell of a Tyneside beating. It could have been worse, couldn't it?
It was terrible. I've not seen an abject performance
since a couple of weeks ago at Anfield.
Well, since Team North against Team South, there was just holes everywhere. It was terrible. It was awful to watch. They looked leggy. They looked outfought. I mean, the midfield without Casemiro, Eriksen, it's lightweight, isn't it? Bruno Fernandes was terrible. When he's bad, he can be awful. It was just. I mean, there was I suppose the most interesting part of the game for me was watching Anthony and Dan Burn having a battle. That was a bit of fun, but there was nothing else to take from a Man United fan point of view. It was grim viewing.
Why have we all just bought Luke Shaw and Bruno Fernandes then, mate?
We took -4s for him, didn't we?
I mean, to be fair, it was never about this one, was it?
No, and I thought it might be a draw. To be honest with you, it was the game.
Yeah, same.
Though Newcastle dominated, it was pushing towards a 0-0. And you thought, can Man United hang on here? And I think that would have been FPL wise would have been a good result for a lot of people who had double. A lot of people had double Newcastle defence, didn't they? And I brought in Shaw, so it would have been okay.
I can tell you, one of the South boys who was in watching the second half with yesterday in the pub had treble Newcastle defence and double Man United defence as well.
Yeah, I mean,
I've had 5.
Yeah, but Newcastle absolutely deserved it. They battered them. Totally dominant. I mean, the second goal was just pathetic, wasn't it? You could see it coming a mile off. It was like no defenders.
Martinez and Varane have gone off, haven't they?
Yeah, it was just. Yeah, I think it was just a bad day at the office for Man United. One game too many. It looked like they looked tired, and the worry is, Ten Hag doesn't rotate that often. Obviously, there's gaps in midfield with injuries and Casemiro suspension. It'll be a very similar team. I think Fred should have played really in hindsight, but it'll be a very similar team, and then they go into a tough game against a tough side like Brentford, who won't give them much. So yeah, that although we earmarked that game as the more attractive one from an FPL point of view, and it probably is still, I'm not as confident about returns as I was.
No, it depends how you look at it. Do you kind of reiterate what I said about, they've lost once since the World Cup, that was at Everton? Or do you look at how many chances Brighton had at the weekend and think, well, if United can repeat anywhere near that, then Rashford will have a field day. So it depends how you look at it, I guess.
I think from a fan perspective as well, well, you know this, James, don't you? But you do you do start to think from a pessimistic point of view, and I'll always be like, oh well, they're going to struggle in the next game. But there's the makings of a good team there now with Ten Hag. We've seen the sort of like green shoots appearing, and I think with another good transfer window behind them, Man United would be much improved next season. It's still been a good season, very positive. But I think where we're at the moment, that just seemed one game too many. I felt with the people that we were missing, key players. Casemiro, can't underestimate the impact that
you're still in two other cup competitions, which just was always a little bit of a concern, I think, for the neutral. That could it become a bit too much by the end with all these fixtures? You said it doesn't rotate much. Fernandes is going to play every game, for example, is one of the appeals, right?
You get flogged, and even I think it was the Forest Carabao Cup semi-final, and they played again the second.
Yeah,
it was like
3-2 up.
Yeah, it's just he does flog him a little bit, and I know Fernandes is resilient, isn't he? And Rashford stayed fingers crossed injury free pretty much, and he's got away with it in some ways. But I think it looked on Sunday that they were just tired and they didn't have much fight in them, and Newcastle were really up for it, dominated midfield. They were really strong in midfield, centre of the park. And I think there's been rumours of McTominay potentially going to Newcastle, but I mean, based on that, he didn't pass the sort of test.
No, but he played a more advanced position, didn't he? Like Bruno was deeper, certainly at the start of the game. And a lot of us were saying, well, I wonder if he bite with Casemiro suspended. We didn't think it'd be at Newcastle, I don't think, that might have come into play. And the amount of chances they had in the first half, mate, bloody hell.
Fred, he's made for that game. He's all action, isn't he? He gets around the park, and with the midfield that Newcastle got, you'd think he would be ideally placed to play, and it was a strange one that he wasn't included, and to put Bruno in that position and have McTominay more advanced.
I think the idea was to put McTominay directly up against Bruno Guimaraes to stop him playing, but it didn't work.
He was outstanding, wasn't he?
He was brilliant. Where he is unlike your Bruno, Guimaraes is extremely likable, actually.
Yes, he is. Yeah, I mean, I'd love to have him at Man United. I think most people would love to have him at their club. He's just from day one when he joined Newcastle, you could see he's a real player, and he's become the leader of that team now. It's outstanding.
Yeah, big few games for Newcastle now, which could go either way in a sense. Brentford away, Villa away, Tottenham at home are all winnable and all losable. I think there are challenges there, and if they come out of those three well enough, they'll fancy that they're going to finish top four from here. Are you quite happy to keep? You've got Botman and Trippier, haven't you? You quite happy to keep Botman going forward as just nice cover on the bench, or play if you want to go to double?
I think so, because they've been strong, haven't they?
Yeah,
defensively, Newcastle, and they've even got good results in some of the big fixtures as well. So I think he's a great sub to have. He's cheap. Trippier obviously he's just going to stay to the end of the season. He's great value and he's brilliant. Clean, absolutely cleans up on the bonus, attacking threat. I think you just keep those players now.
Yeah, they also cover 33, Everton away and Southampton at home 34 quite nicely as well if you're getting short of doublers going into that period. The only thing I would say, I wouldn't say he's a definite keep till the end, Kieran Trippier, because if you land near the end with doublers around 37 particularly, they've got Leicester at home, but if you've got a complement of doublers and aren't going to start him, and then they finish at Chelsea last day, you might make the decision, I'll have Botman sit on the bench and use the Trippier money. It might be the difference in 37 where you're getting rather Diaz rather than Aki, for example. I don't know. So I wouldn't say once he goes at that stage, he isn't coming back, so his value that he's built for is irrelevant, right?
Exactly. Well, you can afford to get a bit punty, can't you? Sort of 36, 37, 38. That's when you can have a little go. But yeah, I think Trippier's been a season whole pretty much, hasn't he? With the value and what he's.
He would be a very difficult one to bench in 34. Yeah, very difficult. And I imagine those who are perhaps looking to wild card around then and bench boost will probably still end up with him. I should imagine. Obviously, Newcastle will have that extra double themselves likely 36. Obviously, if Newcastle did double in 37, then of course he's going absolutely nowhere. I'm probably in the doghouse with my missus because she wildcarded in 28. And I gave her a list of people to buy, didn't I? Which included Alexander Isak. Anyway, being the daft girl that she is, she bought fucking Callum Wilson, didn't she? And she also had Danny Ward. She's got Eric Dyer somehow. Off a fucking wild card went Eric Dyer. And well, I thought Tottenham had good fixtures. Oh, babe. So I said, don't bench boost now. We got to fix this. Of course, when she sees Wilson's points on the bench, I'm in the doghouse, mate.
I heard your podcast saying that she brought in Wilson. And when I saw him score, I thought, "Oh, that's great." I didn't realise he was.
I was in the pub, miles away, thinking I might not go home. I don't think she's noticed yet.
Oh dear,
she hasn't mentioned it. Brilliant. That was much fun, Benny. Thank you so much for going through those games with us. As said, Andy Mears, Let's Talk FPL is going to be joining me on Thursday. We'll cover the games played tonight. Judge my mood.
That's a bit of a drop off in standard of FPL content there, James, from me to Andy.
I've gone, yeah. Well, we're going from the Twitter goat, the Twitter comedian goat to the actual YouTube goat. To my FPL Harry, another YouTube goat, is joining me as well. We're gonna have a bit of a chat about content creation, team leaks. How do content creators kind of deal with this, and should you share info, should you not? Also, I'm going to talk about FPL copycats a little bit, because Harry's he's a very similar rank to you, I think, Benny, at the moment. In fact, I want to say
better than me. I think
he's just outside top 1k, I think, actually, Harry, which is remarkable because I think he finished about 3k last year as well. He's having a super season, and there must be people out there that are copying him. And I want to speak to him about that as well. Sam Brennan is going to be joining me for the Sky podcast on Wednesday. As I said, Andy Thursday, Clash of Correspondence Friday with Dara and Chris previewing Fulham and West Ham. On Patreon this week, we've got our Q&A today. David Hunt is joining me. Tomorrow, James Johnson's doing a quiz for me, which is actually an FPL quiz, believe it or not. No Tottenham this week. We're going to do Tottenham Arse instead. Clayton Fernandez is joining me for a chat about Tottenham and Arsenal. Thursday, I'm going to do an Ask James stream for the patrons on Thursday, time to be confirmed. And on Friday, Rob Pick is joining me for the differential show Game Week 30 preview. If you want to support the show like Benny does, www.patreon.com/Planet FPL. Cheers, Ben.
Well worth the money as well, James. Well worth them.
Thank you very much, mate. As, of course, is supporting the calls for Street Child United and Game Week 39. As I said, if you want to support that, all the links are in the bio, whether you're on the audio or watching on YouTube. Benny, where can everyone follow you and your comedy on the Bird app, mate?
What's my handle? At Benny_Blanco40 is my handle.
And why is it 40?
That was how old I was when I started my Twitter account.
Needs an update, that, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. There's more grey in the beard now, unfortunately.
Benny, despite all your obnoxious tweets on Twitter, you are a true gentleman. Thank you very much. I look forward to seeing you at Game Week 39 in June. Just leaves me to say thank you again so much to Benny. As always, guys, play it your way. Be nice to each other. Game Week's not finished yet. Cue music, please. Man Show.